When you come to present a case study to the Deel team, what's important and what the team really cares about is to understand the problem all the way to the end solution. It could be that some people that are interviewing you right now haven't seen your portfolio, right? We have multiple people who are checking the portfolios, and it might be that they haven't seen the portfolio and this is the first time that they got the introduction to you and what you're working on. So feel free to have like a 30 seconds when you introduce yourself, when you say, hey, I worked in X and Y company, instead of just saying it, show it. I worked in X company, screenshot from like X company, maybe a couple of screenshots. I worked on the mobile app, next. I worked on the TV app, next. I worked on the whatever. The more engaging that part would be, it would give the interviewers an idea of that range that we talked about in the portfolio test that we're doing. After that, of course, spend the majority of the time diving into the specific project. I have one advice, which is if you think of a YouTube video of, let's say, preparing a cake or a TikTok video, what would happen is you would usually see the cake and then the bowl would become empty. You will see flour being poured in. You'll see the eggs coming. And it's really important because if you haven't seen the end result before you actually saw the ingredients, you will probably not need to wait until the end. And granted, in a portfolio, in a case study, the interviewers are a captive audience, right? They have to stay with you for like the hour and they want to get the best out of this 1 hour. But if you get them excited from the get-go, it's going to be much better and they would understand where we are heading. Think about it like an action movie. There has to be an explosion, someone dies, a car flying in the air in the first 3 minutes of the video. The second tip that I have is about sharing context. And I think it's really important to share context, but not dive super deep into context to the point that it takes 20 minutes out of your time. What you have done as a designer is not producing context. The market produced the context. The company produced the context. You just learned the context, adapted it, and solved the problem using that. And so we care about what you have done, and what you've done is design. So we want you to spend the majority of the time showcasing your designs, showcasing your variations, your iterations, talking to us about how the product people and the engineering people and maybe sales and marketing and support helped shape the solution, what feedback they gave you, how you reacted to that feedback, what was the next version until we got to the fruition end-to-end flow or video that demonstrates the whole thing. When you talk about the before, I think it's way more powerful to show the before. Make people feel the pain. Make people understand why the problem was so bad. And if you show the flow and you walk us through it, A, it really helps us understand the whole spectrum of the thing, and B, it really helps us dive in with you and appreciate the solution that you came up with. Whereas if you just say, hey, we had this problem, bullet point 1, bullet point 2, bullet point 3, we end up in a place where we're not necessarily bought on the problem, or we don't deeply understand the problem because we haven't experienced it. And making us experience it would be really, really useful to have a really good interview. It would allow us to have like a really good catharsis at the end of the interview with you. And of course, leave time for questions at the end. And I think that if you do like a really nice intro at the beginning and understand all the interviewers will be able to understand all the spectrum of projects that you have, they might ask you about that specific thing, but also might ask you about other things that you've done because they would know more about you.
Make sure that when you starting the case study interview, that you have a clear metrics. You don't need to show the exact metrics. We don't care about that. Make sure that at least to demonstrate how you got into them, like, from a business perspective, but also from a customer perspective. That's very important to see, have you defined the problem clearly? Have you understood what the hypothesis for what you need to do is there or not? And how do you actually achieve the final solution? And is it matching what you described in the problem all the way to, is the narrative connected? But also bear in mind, and this is very, very important, is within the hour, 45 minutes for you to present. During that 45 minutes, you will have the team who's interviewing you asking you questions. So that will shorten the time. So make sure that you've got fantastic time management to be able to manage your time effectively for and question that to challenge you through the case study interview, but as well as space to ask question at the end if you have any
One other thing that I think is really, really important about the case study is the level of expectation from the presentation and the curation of the case study is extremely high. And it is extremely high because we as designers, if let's say we have like 5-6 years of experience, we have already made and presented those case studies to people multiple times. Some of them will be older, some will be newer. It could be that we've done a new one, but realistically, as a designer, you work on your portfolio every couple of years, every time you change a job. And so the expectation is that you get better at packaging your work. And so in that specific interview, we're looking extremely deeply on the UI, the fidelity, even if there are spelling mistakes, like small things like that. Case study needs to be perfect because it's something that you rehearse. It's something that you go and present to multiple other companies potentially. So the expectation from a storytelling perspective and packaging perspective is extremely high.